The night Don Rickles dodged death by skipping a mobster's dinner remains one of Hollywood's best-kept secrets, until now. How can a man who made millions laugh carry so much pain in silence? And how do you reconcile the thunderous applause of packed clubs with the quiet sorrow of a father mourning his son? These are the contradictions that define Don Rickles. Not just the insult comic with a lightning-fast wit, but a deeply human soul who knew the sting of grief even while making others cry from laughter. He stood in front of presidents, gangsters, and the world's biggest stars with nothing but a mic and his sharp tongue. But behind the confidence and charisma lived a man who bore invisible bruises, often hidden even from his closest fans. For decades, his public persona never cracked, until his daughter Mindy finally revealed the full truth in 2024. Don Rickles was born in 1926 in Queens, New York, into a world of immigrant hardship and resilience. His parents had come from Lithuania and Austria, bringing with them Orthodox Jewish traditions, thick accents, and tales of survival that would echo through his childhood. There wasn't much money, but there was love, laughter, and an unspoken strength passed down through generations. Even as a kid, Don had a restless spark, a natural clown in school, never the best student, but always the loudest laugh in the room. He quickly learned something many never do: that humor could shield you, disarm pain, and, if used correctly, could even protect you in a dangerous world. Drafted into the Navy at just 18, Don was thrown into the middle of the Pacific Theater during World War II. There, in cramped quarters under constant threat, he discovered the most important tool he would ever carry: his humor. Even as young men around him shook with fear, Don cracked jokes, mimicked officers, and insulted his buddies until they laughed too hard to feel scared. That ability, to turn fear into laughter, wasn't just a coping mechanism. It was a gift. And when the war ended, he returned not as a broken soldier, but as a young man who knew what his weapon would be. His father hoped he'd settle into a stable job in insurance sales, but Don couldn't sell a policy to save his life. What he could sell, without even trying, was a room full of laughter. With the encouragement of his fiercely supportive mother, he enrolled in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He studied alongside future icons like Grace Kelly, but his dramatic performances fell flat. Still, something clicked when he improvised or played funny characters. In time, he realized that his failure at serious roles wasn't a weakness, it was direction. The smoky, chaotic world of Catskill Mountain resorts became his training ground. These were places where performers cut their teeth and audiences were brutally honest. Don started experimenting with an edgier style. One night, when a heckler tried to rattle him, Don shot back with a quick insult that had the crowd in stitches. From that moment, he leaned into the danger, crafting an insult-based style that would soon make him famous. He even came up with the term, hockey puck, as a way to keep things light and defuse any real hostility. The more outrageous his jabs, the harder people laughed, and no one could match his speed. Through the 50s and 60s, Don worked endlessly, grinding through 3 shows a night in dingy clubs, strip joints, and venues run by men with guns in their jackets. He developed a kind of superpower, sensing tension and slicing through it with perfect timing. One infamous night, he tore into a man in New Jersey who later turned out to be tied to the mob. But instead of being offended, the guy laughed so hard he nearly fell off his chair. Don's guts became legend. He insulted mobsters, celebrities, and politicians alike, and people kept coming back for more. When he was 32, he finally landed a serious film role in Run Silent, Run Deep, acting alongside Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster. It was a turning point, proof that he could hold his own in dramatic territory. But Hollywood, with its love of stereotypes, soon boxed him into light-hearted, forgettable beach movies in the 60s that threatened to derail everything. He became known more for slapstick than substance, and it looked like he might become just another joke lost to time. But Don Rickles wasn't about to fade away. He clawed his way back with riskier, more meaningful performances. He found small but memorable roles in films like X, The Man with the X-Ray Eyes, and Enter Laughing, where his razor wit could still shine. Then came Kelly's Heroes in 1970, where he held his own beside Clint Eastwood and Telly Savalas, delivering lines with the same rhythm he once used on stage. The public saw him in a new light, not just a joke machine, but someone with depth and precision. The most pivotal moment of his career, however, came in a room filled with music, danger, and glittering power. Frank Sinatra, the one man no one dared to insult, was dining at a nightclub when Don walked over and threw a bold joke his way. Anyone else might have been carried out in pieces, but Sinatra roared with laughter. That laugh changed everything. They became close friends, and Sinatra's influence gave Don a layer of protection in otherwise deadly places. But the danger never truly vanished. In 1972, Don narrowly avoided being killed when he skipped a dinner with a mob boss he'd roasted years earlier. The man had just been released from prison, and someone wanted revenge. Rickles missed the dinner by chance, and lived to laugh another day. Television brought his genius to the masses. Don wasn't just a guest on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, he was a recurring spark, appearing more than 100 times. His chaotic energy disrupted the traditional format. He once broke Carson's cigarette box live on air, and instead of being reprimanded, he got more bookings. Carson understood that Rickles was comedy lightning, impossible to bottle, but dazzling when unleashed. Sitcoms never really worked for him because scripts suffocated his improvisational fire. Still, CPO Sharkey, which ran from 1976 to 1978, allowed him to draw from his Navy days, adding unexpected warmth to the insults. His real throne, however, was the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. For a decade, he dominated them. Surrounded by mafia figures, Hollywood royalty, and world leaders, Don went after everyone with equal fire. No one was safe, but because he roasted with laughter, not hatred, they all came back for more. Sinatra's deep, booming laugh often served as Don's green light. If Frank was cracking up, everyone else relaxed. Behind the spotlight, Don Rickles' life was grounded by Barbara, his wife of 52 years. They met in the 1960s, and from that point on, she became the still center of his chaotic orbit. Their love story was real and lasting, unusual for Hollywood. Barbara not only managed the household but served as Don's rock, encouraging his ambition, comforting him after tough gigs, and raising their 2 children, Mindy and Larry. Don could dish it out to the world, but at home, he was tender and loyal. Tragedy struck when their son Larry, a gifted producer, passed away in 2011 at just 41 from pneumonia. The loss devastated Don. He had always joked to escape sorrow, but there was no punchline that could ease this kind of pain. Barbara's death in 2021, exactly 56 years to the day after their wedding, felt like the final page of a great novel. But even through the heartbreak, Don's legacy continued, not just in comedy, but in love. In 1995, Martin Scorsese cast him in Casino, offering Don a serious role that demanded restraint. He delivered, showing a different kind of power, one that didn't rely on punchlines. But even then, he couldn't help himself. He once roasted Robert De Niro between takes, keeping the set light despite the film's intensity. That same year, Pixar offered him a role that would define his later years, Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story. A whole new generation met Don Rickles not through smoky nightclubs, but through animated toys. He improvised much of the dialogue, and the studio embraced his unique flavor, bringing him back for sequels, spin-offs, and theme park attractions. Even in declining health, he recorded hundreds of lines, leaving behind a treasure trove of material that would be used in Toy Story 4 after his death, ensuring that Mr. Potato Head lived on with Don's voice, heart, and humor. Rickles never stopped. Even into his 90s, he planned new projects and appearances. Though his energy waned, the spark never left him. In 2017, he passed away surrounded by family, leaving behind a body of work that spanned generations, shaped genres, and touched millions. But what most people never saw was his offstage generosity. He quietly donated to Jewish causes, children's hospitals, and fellow comics who had fallen on hard times. He didn't publicize it. He just helped. His daughter Mindy has made it her mission to share the full story. The man behind the insults, the father who grieved, the husband who adored, and the comic who gave everything he had to make the world laugh a little more. His comedy may have been sharp, but his heart was soft. That's the part most people missed. The real Don Rickles was never just a roaster. He was a survivor, a lover, and a man who carried his scars with grace and turned his pain into something beautiful. Laughter. If you found this story as moving and surprising as we did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real stories behind the legends. There's always more to the person behind the spotlight than what the world sees, and we're just getting started.